I see where you're going. We ship down, then kick hard into warp 9. Yeah, come back, fight. Woo-wee!
Hey guys, I have some good news. We have a name for the podcast! Yay! Woo! Hi there, this is Editing Maggie popping in. I just would like to give a disclaimer that at the time of recording, we had chosen the name First Contact, a TNG podcast. In our research, no other Star Trek podcast had come up with that name. However, we've stumbled upon a podcast that does have a very similar name and is the same premise as ours. And it's not our intention to conflict with this other podcast. They've been established for quite a long while. And we've decided to change the name of our podcast to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. So the next few episodes will have a Mr. Blank style correction in them. And I hope that you enjoy Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. Just a reminder, my name is Maggie. Joining me are Jeff and Dory. Jeff and I are huge Trekkies. Dory is a Star Trek noob, and we are going on a journey episode by episode through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today's episode we'll be talking about is The Last Outpost, which is, I believe, technically episode 5 of the first season. Original air date October 17th, 1987. And as always, we'll start off with a recap from Dory.
So bear with me because I am absolutely going to get some stuff wrong / forget things.
We're actually counting on that.
Okay. Okay. So we're on the ship. We're chasing after the Ferengi who have stolen something from somewhere. Yes. So they're chasing. They're like, we want it back. And then they stop. The ship is apparently oh, by the way, when the Ferengi, that ship looked to me like a stingray until it turned around. Then I was like, that's not a stingray. Okay, so the ship is hit, but of course nothing happens because the only way we knew that it was hit is because they were like, we've been hit.
I thought they did some weird effect on the screen that didn't really look like anything.
I have no recollection of that. Yeah, there was a flash of light or something, but nobody shook, nothing. I think I'm just used to these older TV shows or just shows in general when something gets hit, the camera, everything moves. But these guys were just flash of light. We've been hit. I was like, oh.
I mean, given the context of the episode, I think it's kind of supposed to be ambiguous because it's not technically the Ferengi even shooting at them, and we're not supposed to know that.
Excuse me, spoilers.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. For everyone who hasn't seen the episode yet, why are you listening to us?
Okay. So they're like, we need to speak to their leader. Oh, so the Ferengi also think that the Enterprise is trying to attack them. So they're like, gasp. Plots have twisted. And so then Picard is like, let's speak to this guy. So the leader comes on, Tar. That was shocking. When we saw his face, I wrote down in my notes, I wrote, oh my God, that is all ear. That's just a lot of face. There's also an ass on his forehead. And as we find out later, asses on the back of their heads as well.
Indeed there
is.
Just
a very interesting character design. I will say, though, they were doing some close-ups on Tar's face. The makeup looks good. Those close-ups were pretty, blended really well. I give credit. The makeup looks good.
Yeah, you cannot see the seams.
You can if you know exactly where to look for them, but they are extremely well blended. But one of the things that I noticed while going through the episode was, man, are they just trying to show off that their makeup has gotten a lot better since the original series? Because, this is extreme close-up. The guy's mouth is opening in front of Picard's face, and it's larger than his head. And they just want to show us those teeth or something.
Oh, yeah, those teeth. I was like, oh, Jesus. Girl, call your orthodontist. Oh, my God, I forgot. When they first get stuck in that beam thing, and they're like, we have to escape, Geordi gets his time to shine. He's like, we need to go down to engineering. And he is so pumped. And in his words, he goes, Riker says something to him, and then Geordi gets so excited. And he's like, we shift down, then kick hard into warp 9. And then he goes, yeah, come back fighting. Woo-wee. And then Riker goes, give me everything you've got, LaForge. And then he goes, aye, aye, sir. And then he goes and gives his instructions and like a little shoulder massage to an engineer. And then they try the maneuver. Obviously doesn't work. In which Picard responds, merde.
Did
Love
he?
that.
Yeah, I noticed that they really leaned hard on the French stuff for Picard this episode. I think there were 2 or 3 instances of
Yeah, especially when he's talking about the flag.
Oh yeah, and he gets all offended that Data's bringing up other flags.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it didn't feel offended. It was just like, oh, Data's proving he knows more. And Picard's like, excuse me, I'm supposed to know the most. I'm supposed to know about all this. And Data's like, I know them all.
I mean, he didn't want the focus taken off of how great and noble the French were. And
Yeah.
I wish that was a character trait that they held on to for the rest of the series, but it doesn't come up that often.
Especially with his British accent.
Yeah, that was a choice.
Okay. So they find out, they talk to Damon Tar, they realize, okay, it's not each other. Let's like team up to go down to the planet. So they send the gang down to the planet. Riker arrives on his own and he's like, the fuck am I? It looks like a really cheap set, but a really cheap witches set. And he wanders around and then he yells out, he's yelling everybody's name and then he goes, anybody?
Yeah, I wrote that down too.
Yeah, but the way he says it is like really slow and drawn out. Anybody.
I enjoyed that a lot. And then everybody just appears at a random places. Data just like jumps off a stack of crystals. Geordi ends up upside down. But when they discover Geordi, and they're talked to him for like a good minute before anybody's like, maybe we should get him down. And then the Ferengi show up with their like electric pool noodles and use that magic to like knock them all out. Then as they bring Worf over, who gets some stuff to do this episode, good for Worf, they all wake up, they're talking and shit, and then Yar shows up. Like this woman, I wonder if she ever gets like, I wonder how she feels about every like random dude not part of the Enterprise is like, look at this goddess. This incredible woman.
Can you disagree?
No. Yara's incredible. She just shows up with a haircut only she can pull off and is like, I'm here. I'm ready to kick ass and not take any of your misogynistic bullshit. And then they're like, oh, there's something in that fog. And I swear to God, for a second, before they showed, like, they properly got a better look at that fog face, my first... I swear to God, I thought it was Ian McKellen's face in the fog.
Nice.
For like a quick second.
I mean, that would have been an improvement on an already lackluster episode, but
Yeah. Oh. And then it's like you get kind of Wizard of Oz vibes where like this guy's yelling stuff and you're like, ugh, Jesus Christ. And then then Portal shows up, that dude with who I wrote him. To me, he looked like his face was like a melted Weird Al. And
fair.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's a dude in old age makeup.
But it's not done great.
Yeah, but like, why didn't they just hire an old dude?
Especially since the part that they're doing where he's swinging around that axe, they sped it up so that it would look like he's actually doing it skillfully. Why not just get an actual old person?
Yeah.
That makes too much sense.
Old people can swing around shit too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Then Portal's like, there's going to be a test. And you, Riker, you're going to do it. Riker's like, how do you know my name? And no, that doesn't get answered. And then, so the Ferengi are like jumping around like a bunch of little children who have to go to the bathroom really badly, but have to wait in line. they're just like jumping around like little hyperactive children. And of course, Portal uses the like same quote that Picard uses earlier on in the episode.
Foreshadowing.
About Sun Tzu. Yeah, it was like, ugh, we get it. Everybody knows this guy.
We get it. You're smart.
It's the go-to, like, violent fight thing, discussion, quandary. You know what I mean?
It's philosophy, and if you're quoting philosophy, you have to quote Sun Tzu.
Of course. It's the law.
Yep.
So then he does his fancy staff routine, which Riker does not move a muscle. Not impressed. And then he's like, you passed, and let us, like, chat and be friends. And he's just like, literally, I will release you. And the Ferengi are like, what about us? And then, meanwhile, up on the ship, everybody's dying. My favorite thing, though, is like, so Dr. Crusher is like trying to, make things a little less terrifying for people while they're dying. And she's like, I almost thought about dosing Wesley. And Picard's like, where is he? And she's like, he's in his room. And then Picard just goes, or what? He's like, he should die awake.
I actually really liked that she called him out on that.
Yeah. No,
He's like, oh my God.
Yeah, he says he has the right to face death awake.
Oh, he has the right to meet death awake. And I was like, oh my God, you hate that kid so much. That is dark.
I love that little moment after, though, when she's like, is that a male perspective?
Oh my God, he just really hates Wesley.
Yeah.
Can you blame him at this point?
I mean, I don't know if I hate Wesley.
Wesley's already drunkenly taken over his ship.
Yeah, but I like that. That was a good time.
Yeah, but did Picard like that?
Oh, that's true. That's true. Oh, yeah. So then, like, once Portal releases the ship, everybody gets air. We get the scene of Dr. Crusher dying beside Picard. Ugh. And she goes, not a minute too soon, Jean, and touches his face. I thought she's like, oh my God, he's going to caress him. No, she's just checking his pulse. And then she just, like, shocks herself, and she's like, I mean, Captain. And I was like, yeah, you're going to call him Captain. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, that's how I like it. Bow chicka bow wow.
And then everybody, like, comes back up and carries on. I for sure missed stuff. I'm remembering now stuff that I missed, but we'll get to those parts after. But yeah, not my favorite episode, but it wasn't like the worst.
Yeah. I didn't notice this any other time that I watched it, but there's actually a lot going on in this episode, and I think that the fact that there's just so much of it crammed into one episode, and they really fail at making you care at any point of it. I think the reason the episode is bad isn't because the Ferengi are awful, but because it's just so crammed full of stuff that it fails to make you give a shit about.
You know what I've noticed in the last few episodes is that other cultures, races, whatever, have such a problem with humans. And every single time it's like, you humans must atone for your sins, when it's like they're referring to, obviously, to most of the time not the current group, that they just have to, like, atone for other people. But my God, like, if every episode is just going to be different groups of people being like, humans are the worst, like, you gotta change it up.
Well, the original series was similar to that, but I think I mentioned in our Encounter at Farpoint episode that Gene Roddenberry was going through his, like, oh, well, I'm going to read about humanism and learn about all of this. And so he was very, very focused on, humanity's actually great, and I have to spend every episode proving it. And he really pushed that through the writer's room.
Well, it's very preachy.
Oh, it is.
Oh
my God.
That is the theme of season 1.
Also, I feel like nowadays with what's going on in the world, I'm, like, kind of on all these other people's side.
That's a fair point.
Because, like, humans are truly the worst.
So the original idea for the episode was a lot less judgy on humans, but they kept that general idea of it, because basically the way that they pitched the episode to the writer's room was, think Rip Van Winkle but in space, if you know what Rip Van Winkle is. Rip Van Winkle was an old story written back in the 1800s. It's kind of a fairy tale thing about a guy who slept through the American Revolution and woke up to a very changed world.
Oh.
So that was their idea going into this, and that's essentially what Portal is supposed to be. But they didn't really resolve the kind of highbrow philosophical view they were going for in this, because the Ferengi are so fucking distracting from that.
They're so annoying.
Yeah, and Portal's in the episode for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. They really don't focus much on him.
That's one of the things that surprised me rewatching it, because when I remember this episode, like when I think about it, I think about all the stuff down on the planet. And it really surprised me, like, how little of the episode is actually there.
Yeah, that doesn't happen until they're more than halfway through. I think that they spent a lot of time at the beginning trying to, like, build up the Ferengi threat. I don't know if you remember this, Dory, but they actually have mentioned the Ferengi once or twice before this, only in passing.
Oh, no.
They were trying to build them up as, like, this would be the big alien bad guy of Star Trek.
These guys?
Yeah, it was a bad decision because the director quite literally told the actors at one point, which you could definitely see, to jump up and down like crazed gerbils.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. Well, I mean, they took that direction.
The Ferengi are so bad. They're literal, like, trolls. Like...
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
They're supposed to be like a caricature of capitalists. Like, I hate capitalists as much as the next person.
I do love, there was a line that one of them said, he goes, "You see, they are demented. Their values are insane. You cannot believe the business opportunities they have destroyed." It's like, that's kind of great. I do love that, like...
But it's like, yeah, they're sniveling little monsters, and it's like, oh god, you're kind of killing your point.
Well, how is anyone going to take them seriously when Riker and Portal are, like, walking along discussing philosophy? They're dancing around like gerbils right next to them, and Riker just kind of, like, lets out an amused chuckle when Portal's asking about, like, what to do with them. And it's like, okay, you're not really building up your big threat here very well.
Yeah, and then we get, like, this, oh, they just hit you on the head with a hammer. That they're like, oh, they remind me of how we were a few hundred years ago.
Ugh.
Being like, look at us, like, sniveling little monsters and shit. It's like, oh god.
It was, I do not care for them. They're very annoying. Also, the way that, they were like, oh, they put clothes on their women, and one of them yelling at Tasha to submit. I was like,
I'm sorry, Dory.
Me?
You mean females? I know.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
You clothe your females.
Oh my god, I hate the voice. I hate it. I hate it.
It'll only get worse from here.
Yeah. In DS9, they
God.
refined the Ferengi a bit more, and they're, like, I like what they ended up doing with them in that series.
Yeah, but they still have Wallace Shawn playing a Ferengi at one point.
I love him.
Yeah, but think of his voice. Just think of Wallace Shawn saying, females!
Oh god. Oh god.
Oh, Jeff, I have a question for you.
Yeah?
I meant to look this up, but I forgot. So we have Armin Shimmerman in this episode.
Yes.
But I think one of them was also Jeffrey Combs.
No, it wasn't.
No?
The other two actors ended up playing Ferengi in later episodes of TNG.
Okay.
So we will see them again in TNG, but no, none of them are Jeffrey Combs.
Okay, because one of them really sounded like him.
Yes, I know. I know the one you mean.
Yeah.
But no, that did not end up being the case. I was thinking about it at first. I'm just like, wait a minute. But then realized, okay, this guy doesn't have Jeffrey Combs' like quiet demeanor, the way that he goes about things. He's too like excitable about things. And I looked it up, and yeah, it is definitely not Jeffrey Combs.
Okay. So Dory, the one thing that's like important to note is Star Trek will have actors play multiple different roles.
Yeah, they'll come up again and again because they like working with the actors, and because it was an episodic show, they were very easy to just like put them in new makeup and say, well, most people won't notice because this episode aired like 3 years ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and there's this one actor that, like, I'm not sure, it's more in Deep Space Nine, but he plays like 5 different people.
Yeah, I don't know if they brought him in TNG, to be honest. I think he might have gotten his start off in DS9. If he was in TNG, then it was like a bit part somewhere.
Okay,
but
yeah.
We'll see as we go on with it.
Yeah, because one of the actors that plays a Ferengi in this episode ends up playing like a main character in Deep Space Nine.
Ooh.
So
And,
I don't know if... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff. Just before that,
Yep.
so you were talking about the line, Dory, where he's like, submit.
Yeah.
That was one of the lines I wrote down because it was one of my favorite of the episode. I don't know why. He's like, No female human or Ferengi can order more dock around. Submit. He fucking hisses. I don't know why. Just the way he emphasized Mordock was really funny to me.
Mordock.
These guys are crazy. I do like how Yara is just like, no.
Yeah, he's like, try it, shorty.
She just is looks at them like, what the oh yeah, and she
Yeah.
starts fighting. She's so cool.
I would like to bring up that while the Ferengi themselves are absolutely ridiculous, I have to commend the art department on a lot of design there, because not only is the makeup fantastic, but there was a lot of thought that went into how they were designing everything else about them.
Yeah, except for the pool noodles.
Okay, that is actually a mistake that I'll get into in a moment. But, the ship is meant to look as, threatening as possible. Maggie, I don't know if you noticed, but they have the little Ferengi symbol tattooed on their top lobe there.
Oh, yeah, I did notice that.
So that symbol, the background behind it is, it's literally green because color of money, but also it's meant to be dog, eat dog, eat dog.
Ah.
Yeah, which is why it's a circle inside of another thing, like that. So
So it's like a turducken of logo.
okay, so the whips they're kind of a last minute mistake. They had an idea for the way they wanted to do those, and they were originally going to be more like whips, even though they look very much like dildos. And at the last minute, they weren't able to get their original special effects plan for them working, and they ended up resorting to these kind of snapback pieces of metal, like the ones that you would slap on your wrist or whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they essentially had to resort to those, and they were not happy with the results at all, but they were already shooting, so they couldn't do anything about it.
Oh, and another note about the makeup is, Dory, how they have the headdresses on the back of their heads?
Yes, that was a choice. Oh,
yeah,
God.
they did that purely because they didn't want to figure out the makeup at the back.
Yep. You'll see it going forward quite a bit.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Occasionally, they will do the makeup on the back, but for most Ferengi, they'll just do that, because it's well, why bother?
I mean, that's fair. They did a heck of
That's
a job
true.
on the front, so lots of props for that, because it looks fantastic.
Something that I noticed going into it is I think this might have been the debut of the black paper on the back of on the displays on the back of the bridge in order to block reflections, because the lighting is just so fucking ridiculous. You won't notice it unless you're looking for it, but it shows up in HD. I think they thought it'd be hidden when they were doing it on TV and you don't really notice it there, but in HD, it's construction paper on the back of the displays.
I did not notice that. I'll try to look for that now.
I can send you a screenshot of it that I took later, but yeah, it's something else. You'll notice it going forward. They use it a lot less once they switch over to the new lighting in a couple of seasons, but in the early parts where they're still lighting it like it's a stage show, it's there quite often.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of stage show, the opening of this episode is so dramatic. And the blocking is just so obvious, and
there's so many people on the bridge in this.
There's that moment where Picard walks perfectly into frame, with Riker behind him, and the composition is just super perfect, and they do the rack focus, and it's just I love it.
Also, when Worf gets up from the chair, and because Geordi's returning to the bridge. And it just happens to be right when Geordi is at the perfect point to re-enter the conversation. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. It's all this intricate ballet, and I kind of love it. It's so unnecessary, but I love it.
I mean, the bridge is incredibly busy in this episode.
Yes.
There's so many active characters on it that they're focusing on.
And Geordi, they really try to establish Geordi and Worf's character in this episode.
Yes, I wanted to bring that up, actually, because with both of them, they give several of them, minor character moments where it's not very long, but it's something to try to establish a personality. Yeah. I know when they discover that the ship is immobilized, they do this weird close-up of Worf, and he's immobilized by the damn Ferengi, and you're like, Jesus Christ, Worf, calm down.
Yeah, and Geordi is loose in this episode.
Oh, Geordi's having a great time.
My hero.
I also like that Worf doesn't know who Uncle Sam is, so he's like, Uncle who?
Why does Data know? Data didn't know what a snoot was, but he understands the reference to Uncle Sam? Come on. Could you be any more Americentric?
Well, Data knows all the flags.
Data's reaction to that is so gold. Because he doesn't answer Worf.
Data's character is actually really strange in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when they get down to the planet, Data seems like delayed and subdued for some reason, and it doesn't really make any sense because, I mean, they've kind of focused that he's a little silly before this, but they go back and forth between he's silly and he's a robot, and they can't seem to decide on which one they're doing.
Yeah, because in this episode, I felt like he was more of like the pilot episode Data, where he's like very kind of childlike almost, where he doesn't understand what's going on and he's just reciting facts.
Nothing to write home about.
And he gets his fingers caught in a finger trap.
Oh, God, yeah, that was stupid.
And everybody just stares at him. It takes forever for anybody to help him. He just sits there. Oh, and then I do like that later Geordi gets his own fingers caught. So then they're like, oh, go this way. Data has to like reach over Geordi to press the button for him.
Even though they've all seen the solution.
Fun little dumb continuity to that, actually. The moment that Riker finishes asking, hey, permission to like beam a box of the Chinese finger traps aboard the Ferengi ship, Picard, like, you know, he gives him the okay, but then sits down and gives orders to leave, and it's like, wait, okay. You literally just did that for a joke, and you're not actually gonna... Okay.
The thing is, in that scene, though, Riker has his fingers stuck, even though he's the one that got Data out of the trap earlier in the episode. Also, in that episode, they go into the briefing room, or the conference room, to talk about stuff, and there's, like, just two little kids in there.
Oh, yeah, what was with that?
Why are there children? And then Riker's like, boys will be boys. I'm like, they will not. Why are they in there? That's obviously like a classified room or something. Why are they there?
I mean, Yar's clearly not doing her job.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but that conference room is like, you have to go through the bridge to get there, don't you?
Yes, you do.
So how do those little kids get there?
Well, they ran on the bridge.
Yeah. And then I realized, because the kids are there for like 2 seconds, and they don't really acknowledge it all that much, and I'm like, what's the deal with these fucking kids? Like, why did they do this? And
I have an idea.
And yeah, I think you're probably thinking the same thing as me, which is I realized, oh, it's to establish that one of the kids left the little finger trap there.
Oh, no, that didn't occur to me at all. I was thinking maybe this is one of Picard's ways to be, like, cool with children, is letting some of them have access to rooms they're not supposed to be have access to.
Like, that it's off limits.
He wants to, you know...
I wonder if it was just a leftover moment in the script that they didn't really deal with very well, and so, like, the fact that the kids leave the finger trap isn't made very clear.
Yeah, it definitely isn't, but I'm really, really confident that that's why that's there. Is to explain why Data has this stupid finger trap thing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Also, makes me a little bit worried. Like, is this the, like, only toy these kids have on the Enterprise? Is the finger trap? Because that's depressing. That's...
Yeah.
I mean,
that
one
can
thing
only
that
be
you'll
fun
find abundantly clear within Star Trek is that none of the people who write this show have ever been around a child.
Yeah.
They also have never been children. They
Exactly.
skipped right from infancy to 18 years old.
Also, I feel like Troy does nothing in this episode. Her only role is to say, hey, why don't we check on the planet also? Which is completely unprompted. Like, the way she does it, it seems so random. Like, what made you think of that?
I mean, it is important, but yeah, it's just there to move the plot forward.
The way it's shot and the way she's acting it makes it seem like there's something that happened that made her think, oh, maybe we should check out the planet. But it's nothing.
Well, there's also the fact that when they go into the conference room, to have the initial discussion about, like, okay, how are we going to get these Ferengi to respond to us? I don't know if you noticed, but it's basically Picard just talking to Yar and Worf on one end and Deanna on the other. And in that scene, they are just their job descriptions.
Yeah.
Yar is just like, fire phasers, fire torpedoes. And Deanna's just like, no, talk to them, empathize. And I'm like, yes, we get it. Those are your jobs. Yeah. But do you have personalities? Do you have thoughts that aren't just, this is my job and I want to do that?
Right now, does anybody?
I mean, Geordi apparently does. What's Geordi's job? Because apparently he's been sent down to engineering in order to manage their department briefly and then sent back up to the bridge.
Oh, I love Jordy.
I mean, me too.
He's great.
But that's a little, like, what happened to that chief engineer that we saw 2 episodes ago? The really stern woman.
Also, did you notice that Picard calls Riker Will?
Oh, yeah.
I almost screamed.
Yeah, they're definitely still trying to focus on the Picard as an old ship captain thing, and, like, he has that camaraderie with certain people.
But also, okay, maybe this is just
Will.
my, like, fangirl showing. But, like, I kind of got vibes between, like, Will and Picard.
Right? When they were close to each other, I was like, and he's like, we have no other choice. And I'm like, oh my God, if you guys kiss right now, I'm going to lose my mind. Do it. Do it. They were so close to each other.
I'm sorry, you fucked up. It's between Will and Jean-Luc.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Because Riker stands...
Or Jean.
Yeah. Riker stands so close to Picard. He's so close.
Invade that personal space.
There is no personal space when you're talking about Jean-Luc and Will.
I enjoyed that. I love that.
How do you ship that? Jean-Will?
Jean-Will.
Oh my God.
That's a really great ship name.
Oh, Jean, will they, won't they?
Oh, we're awful human beings.
Yeah.
I always say this to my brother. My favorite thing is like to do is like when I'm watching any show and 2 people stand a little too close to each other, you just yell out "kiss" to the screen. As long as they're not related, I yell out "kiss."
Is that what you were doing this episode?
Yeah, basically. Just anytime 2 people are standing close to each other.
Now, is that what you were doing with the extreme close-up between Picard and the Ferengi across the view screen as well?
God.
Because
I
that was close.
I wrote a note because that was so weird. Here's the weirdest part of that was they kept having these shots of the back of Picard's head.
Yes.
And a really, really intense close-up of Damon Tarr. But part of Damon Tarr's face was behind Picard's head. So I was like, you guys, what is this shot?
Yeah, I'm noticing that the cinematography, there's a lot of really badly composed shots throughout the episodes so far. Like there's several good ones too.
Even though the opening, like, yeah, there's bad composition in the rest of the episode, even though the opening has like really good composition, it's so weird. And speaking of that, I'm like, one of the things I was thinking that I always think when I watch this episode is, why are the Ferengi living in a white void?
Oh, okay. There is actually a
yeah.
little bit of backstory behind that.
Sorry, 1 sec, because
Sure.
I want to say my theory. So I have 2 theories. Probably like maybe they just wanted to make the Ferengi seem like super intimidating, which is why they have the extreme close-ups. Or B, which I personally believe, is that they ran out of budget for an interior set.
So the reason that they did it actually has more to do with in-universe consistency than anything else. The reason that they gave the Ferengi super bright chips and light them like really heavily is that they're supposed to have really strong ears but really weak eyesight. So the implication is their ships are extremely bright because they can't see very well.
Oh, they never
Okay.
established that. Like,
Oh no, they don't,
ever.
but that is the actual intention behind the set design.
Okay.
Yeah, like they knew that going into it.
That would have been a really interesting aspect of the Ferengi, but they, like, you and I know they never actually do that.
Wow, spoilers.
Sorry.
God,
Oh my God. There we go. It's done. Podcast's over. I now know all this.
that's true.
You know all there is to know.
I mean, you know that the Ferengi are now the big villains of TNG. Definitely something that they actually 100% stick to for sure. Gonna get excited, right?
Oh God.
I guess you're excited to see those energy whips again, right?
Always. Who doesn't want to be smacked by electric pool noodles?
Yeah. It's so funny because
All my dreams are coming true.
I literally wrote down pool noodles as well.
Yeah.
When I was
It
reading.
really looked like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's just I've been dying to go swimming this summer
it could be.
or what, but it's just swimming imageries in my head.
Why not both?
I have one quick thing. Do you notice that time is irrelevant to these people in these episodes? Because at one point, in the middle of the episode, Picard's like, they've been on the planet for 6 hours. And I'm like, what do these people do with their time?
Yeah.
Like 6 hours and they've done nothing? So they've had 6 hours that they're dying?
Well, that's like in Encounter at Farpoint, where it's like, okay, it's been 11 hours.
Yeah, when 11 hours have passed. What do these people do with their freaking lives? They waste so much time. No wonder they're constantly having all these issues, because they don't spend their time wisely.
Yeah, they're not doing shit.
They just fuck around for hours.
Also, there's a point where, like, Picard's waiting for a reply from the Ferengi, and it's not established how long he's waiting, but it sort of seems like he hasn't gone anywhere, and that this is still the same moment in time. But there's a captain's log in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
So when did he record this captain's log?
In between, when everybody's dying, he decides to take a quick break from dying to go record.
I noticed that his voice, he oscillates his voice a lot more in the captain's logs in this part of at this point in the series than he does later on. And when you get later on, when he's in a good mood, he'll oscillate a little bit. But for the most part, he'll be very, like, straight to the point. Like, oh, it's a captain's log. All right.
It's so weird. It seems like there's 2 points or morals or statements that this episode is trying to make, and it doesn't really succeed all that well at either of them. They have this critique of capitalism and greed and stuff, but then also making these weird points about military strategy.
Yeah.
They really harp on how good Riker is at strategy.
I mean, we know he's really good at docking the base to the thing, the saucer. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot of military strategy.
Yeah, because they establish that he knows Sun Tzu very well.
I mean, who amongst us doesn't?
he knows how to get out of the finger trap, and then his knowledge is what saves them from the portal guy. It's just such a weird decision in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Also, the stuff on the ship where people are they've lost power and people are dying, in quotes, I did not care. Honestly,
no, not at all.
The stakes just did not. There was no emotional thing of I didn't care, even though Crusher was still there, and I love her. Picard, love him. There was people I liked there, and I truly. It's just all of a sudden they're in we go from things being relatively normal to they're in the dark and nobody can breathe. When did this happen?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I mean, it's like I pointed out at the beginning. There's so many things going on in the episode, and yet they really fail to make you give a shit about any of them, because the first half of the episode is focused on building up this tension of, oh, who are the Ferengi? Oh, what's going on the ship and all of that. And then they get down to the planet. They know, what the problems are. And for half the rest of the episode, they're leaving you up on the ship and focusing on, minor moments of everyone's just kind of quietly, quaintly suffering. Nobody's in a rush. Nobody's, all that worried about it. It's just sort of something to philosophize over. And, And then down on the planet, once again, there's no real tension on any of it. It's the Ferengi are acting stupid and silly. And everything else is just kind of confusing.
I think because it also feels so separated, even though the stakes are technically high, you don't feel it at all. This is a life and death situation, yet I was meh.
I think it's because the episode spent so much time slowly building up to something that once you hit a point of tension, there's no interest in that tension because the mood and the tone has already been set.
Yeah, I guess you build it up that the Ferengi are these they're the bad guys, and they end up being just kind of idiots. And so then all of a sudden we have the new thing we're supposed to face out of nowhere, which is
not true. We seek friendship with you.
Oh my god. So now we have Portal show up and he's Wizard of Ozing, and we're oh, so he's the guy we got to contend with after 5.5 seconds?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was this really doesn't. I have no emotional attachment to any of this. I'm just I hope Data's okay when he jumps from that crystal thing, and I hope Geordi gets down safely.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't care. Although Data, fucking love Data. I think he's still my favorite. He does get to have like when they do like that little brief fight scene on the planet.
Oh yeah, that was great.
And Worf takes down 2 guys like no problem, but Data gets to like lift up one of the Ferengi and like that Dirty Dancing lift for a second and with like no struggle at all, and he's like talking and his arms up.
Yeah.
The guy's up above him screaming.
Now, as we've gotten this far in the episode, I love that you're saying it like this, but it's Ferengi.
Oh, Ferengi, how have I been
You've
saying
been
it?
saying Ferengi, and I am chuckling to myself every time you say it.
I think I keep... You know why I'm saying it like that? It's because I keep reading it like fungi.
Oh.
Well, they are pretty fun guys.
Oh my god. Ferengi.
Yeah.
Ferengi. Okay. Yeah.
You'll get used to it. It takes time. It's a very strange name, but I do like how alien it sounds.
Okay. I'll just call them, those guys.
I was going to say earlier that I actually, like, right up until the point where you see the Ferengi and they have that first on-screen communication, I was really enjoying this episode. I thought the tension was really good. I thought, like, the conflict was really good. Like, I was having a good time. And then, like, you set up this big threat and this serious situation, and then you just get sniveling little greed trolls. And it's like totally kills it all. And it's like, how do I take this seriously?
Definitely not like Uncle Sam.
Yeah, it's still that it's still that leftover TOS vibe, which the set was so original series.
Oh, yes.
But I kind of loved it. Oh, there's this moment, this is like a really stupid thing, but there's this moment where like Data's standing on top of like those crystal things, and especially in HD, like they don't look like crystals at all. And he's like, oh, these are like crystalline structures or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, crystalline foam.
Yeah.
Ugh, my joke did not land as well as I thought it would.
Sorry, man. I guess it's like landing on foam.
Yeah. Soft landing.
Also, why is it when Riker's calling out, nobody calls out back to him? Because the rest of them are clearly awake.
And they're not that far from him. Everybody's like, ugh, Riker, shut the fuck up for a minute. Nobody wants to talk to you right now.
So, what ended up being your favorite moments?
I really enjoyed Data being stuck in the finger trap, that he just kept going, and he just goes, apologies, Captain. I seem to have reached an odd functional impasse. I am stuck.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, but it's just like, I think the actor is so good that like he's playing with it, not thinking much of it, and then once he gets stuck, he like, it's clearly distracting, but he keeps talking. I think the actor just did a really good job of that, so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Picard saying merde. I enjoyed Yar kicking that guy, and he goes, just try it, shorty.
Get your paws off me.
But, I mean, this was, and of course, I love every interaction with Crusher and Picard. But I think also my other favorite part is Picard saying that Wesley has the right to die awake.
That is good.
And away from him, basically.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. That is good, because like I didn't even think of it that way, but that just puts like a whole amazing new spin on it.
I just love that Picard is such disdain for Wesley.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. It warms my heart.
I loved when Worf asks Data like who Uncle Sam is, and Data just doesn't answer him, and just like he looks smug. He like kind of looks smug because it's like, oh, I finally get a reference that someone else doesn't. I think I talked about before, but I love like when the guy is like, no female can order more Doc around. And yeah, I also wrote down the anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was so funny.
My favorite moment ended up being something really small, but for some reason after it happened, I had to pause because I couldn't stop laughing at it. There's multiple points in the first few minutes of the episode where they're chasing down the Ferengi, and Picard's just like, enlarge, enhance, that sort of thing. And the very last one that they do, At this point, Picard's enlarged the screen like 6 times, and I'm like, okay, just we get it. You want a close up, fine. So he says enlarge the final time as they've like stopped and the ship is turning around, and it zooms in like 1%, and I'm just sitting there staring at the screen like somebody in effects really fucked up here.
Yeah. Maybe like 2 guys did that scene, and like the first one zoomed in too far.
Oh god.
Like on the other ones, and then the last guy was like, shit, I have no room to zoom this in anymore without losing quality.
All right, just cut the 35 mil a little bit, and
Yeah.
hope that we don't lose too much of it. Shall we see what Dory thinks of the next episode?
Yes, let's get into predictions. Okay, so predictions. The next episode is called, I believe it's Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Where no one has gone before. God,
yes.
Sexism is so last century.
Sorry, yes. Where No One Has Gone Before. And we've adjusted our rules. We're going to give Dory a little tidbit just to give her a bit more to work with. We're going to keep it very, very vague, though. So, title, Where No One Has Gone Before. And your tidbit is, an older man gets close to Wesley.
No! Ah! Oh my god, that's terrifying. Oh god. Stranger danger. Oh my god. There's so many things. The combination of the title and that description there's so many interpretations. Like a billion. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh no. Okay. So just no one has gone before, and Wesley meets an old man. Oh god.
An older man.
Older man. Oh god. Okay. So, obviously they're going to a new place. Maybe they go to a new planet that they haven't been to, and Wesley decides he wants to venture onto the planet himself, like with the group, but like sneaks off or whatever. And he meets a local, and they didn't know there was like people there, and he becomes friends with the local, which is not good. That's my guess.
That's your guess?
Because I mean, there's something way worse I could say, but I'm not going to say it. Truly don't know what to expect with Star Trek at this point.
All right, so next time we will see if you're correct. We will see you next time on Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.